I was 14 when it happened, but I remember it like it was just yesterday, even though it was 5 years ago. Time really flies. So, I was diagnosed with some sort of sickness I can never remember the name of, and I was bedridden. Let me tell you, not too pleasant about that idea. Despite the fact that my brother was much sweeter and was very helpful during that time, and the fact that I got to be on my phone was pretty great too. I had rested my head on my pillow and tried to stay awake. I failed, and felt the dark wave of sleep crash over me, and I drifted off into the ocean of dreams. I opened my eyes to a strange setting. It was a strange looking place with strange looking weapons and tools all around me. I frowned and tried to reach up and rub my eyes and maybe even get a clear vision, but I couldn't. My hands were strapped down and I couldn't move them at all. In fact, I couldn't move my legs either, or any part of my body for that matter. I frowned. What the? I mustered before the door opened across the room, emitting an eerie creak before a man stepped in. He had a look in his eyes, his creepy, light blue eyes. Shaggy red hair hung in his face and stuck to his cheeks. One thing really stuck out to me though, his creepy smile, his teeth baring and his lips curling in an awful and sinister grin. It wasn't until I ripped my eyes away from his face that I had finally noticed that he had a tool in his hand, a bloody knife. His eye twitched. "Little girl," he creaked in a god-awful and terrifying voice that made my skin crawl. "Why did you fall asleep?" His voice was softer now, but he still had that batshit crazy voice. He took a step towards me, and he raised a knife, setting it down when I didn't get an answer. "Is there anyone in that pretty little head of yours?" He tapped my forehead with his index finger. I had a very strong urge to nip at his finger and bite it off, but I held myself. I had drifted off into the silence, but I was soon jolted back by a terrible pain running down my strapped-down arm. I gave a feeble shout of pain. An instinct told me to jerk my arm away, but I couldn't. He grinned his awful grin. "Music to my ears," he said, his oily voice. He held up a power tool and started it up and drove it through my foot. I yelled in agony and tried to move. "Stop! Stop! Stop it!" I whined. He gave a terrible cackle. "Try and stop me," he said in a sneering way as he took another tool from the rack nearby and gazed at it longingly like a child that was just been handed a brand new toy. He turned his eyes to me and I finally got a good look at it. A drill. He pressed a few buttons before a whirring sound filled my ears and my eyes widened and fear filled me. He just smiled and drove it through my elbow, making me give a yowl of pain. I felt the warm blood drip down my limbs from the wounds that he had just given me. Then something occurred to me. Wait, this is just a dream. I had almost completely forgotten that I was in nothing but a dream state. I concentrated for a while before I opened my eyes to the familiar blue walls of my room. The noise of my brother snoring in the bedroom across the hall filled my ears. I frowned. Why was I still feeling some pain? I hesitated and gathered all my bravery before pulling back my covers, showing the awful nightmare before me. Blood, flesh, mangled legs. I almost puked as I yelled out for my mother. "Mom!" I managed to choke out, and my mother scurried into my room to check on me. Obviously, I wasn't imagining this because she screamed as soon as she saw the sight before her. Suddenly, I had opened my eyes again. I felt no pain, no suffering. My heart was just pounding, sweat falling, breath quickening. I sighed and looked at the clock. 3:25. I laid back to relax. Then I heard something in an oily, eerie voice. "Come and play, little girl. The fun is only starting." I was 14.